Hello everyone, hello Tea Club members, welcome to the Tea Crane and welcome to this month's The Tea Crane Tea Club video. This month is very special because we're finally in the new harvest season. We're in the Shincha First Flush Tea Harvest, and in this month's Tea Club we are introducing two very special Shincha teas. Have you ever had Shincha? Leave a comment below and let me know how you liked it, or if you haven't, let me know in the comments below as well. If you're enjoying what you're seeing, like the video and also subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet. And also, if you're liking what you're seeing and if you like to explore more different Japanese teas, then also subscribe to the Tea Club, because each month we are introducing very special, very unique, artisanal made Japanese teas. This month is Shincha season and actually this year the Shincha harvest has been delayed. What happened is that in February it already started getting warmer, and so the tea bushes were they started to produce new buds already, and that's very early. So in April, on April 4th, there was a frost, and a lot of the tea bushes, the new buds on the tea bushes, they were affected by the frost, and so they got damaged, they withered and they fell off. And this caused the tea bush to have to reset and restart growing fresh buds, and that affected the harvest to be delayed by about 2 or 3 weeks. So certain regions in Japan, the regions further down south in Kyushu, so the base of Kyushu around Kagoshima, etc., they didn't have any frost damage, and so they were able to produce Shincha at the end of April already, so they had a very early harvest. Whereas higher up in the mountains and in the regions here surrounding Kyoto, like for example Nara, they had frost damage, and so their harvest is actually just about to conclude at this moment in the beginning of June. So we've got very late new teas and we've got very early fresh teas, and that's exactly what I'm introducing in the Tea Club this month. We have this very early pick Kagoshima new Sencha, and we've got this very late pick Sencha from Nara. So in Japan it's a custom to drink the tea when it's new and when it's fresh, because it's said that when it's newly harvested, then it contains most of the nourishment and the nutrition that we require for the coming year. So drinking the tea when it's freshly picked helps to nourish your body and fend your body against diseases and issues, complications that you might find along the way in the year to come. And so that's where this Shincha has become a very big tradition. And of course I always like to also adhere to tradition, and so that's why I've chosen these two wonderful teas for this month. Now the first one is from Kagoshima. It's in the southern areas of Kyushu, and it's a tea garden that sits right beside the Imuta pond. And the farmer of this tea is Mr. Miyazono. And he's actually the only person who has a tea garden at that idyllic pond. It's a very important wetlands area, a breeding ground for different insects and birds, and it's very important that that area is kept clean and tidy and natural. And so the teas that he produces there, well, the tea garden that he cultivates, is also tended to in an absolutely natural way, so that he doesn't only not pollute the tea, but he also does not pollute the area, so that the pond is maintained, the area is maintained, and the wildlife that lives there and breeds there can also flourish. So this is a very unique and a very special tea, and interesting to know is that Mr. Miyazono is also a farmer of mulberry leaf, and In the past, actually, if you go back to the 1200s, when Eisai is actually the founder of the Kenninji Temple and the author of the Kissayo Joki, basically meaning drinking tea for health. When he wrote his Kissayo Joki, that book, he mentioned mulberry even more often than he referred to tea in it for the health benefits that both types of leaf actually contain. And mulberry is a very frequently used substance in Japan, but it's not as common to just drink it these days anymore. And so what he does is he pulverizes the mulberry leaf and makes it into a powder that you can mix in with smoothies, etc. Use it as a power food. And then he produces this magnificent tea. And the second specimen that I've chosen for this month is a later one. That one was harvested just late May, and it's from Nara, from our friend and farmer Fumiaki Iwata. He has been featured in this club quite often, also for his ideas and his beliefs about organic farming and organic cultivation. And this tea is just, as the other teas that I have presented, a specimen of his belief and his confidence in the natural growth and the natural benefits that tea can have. Now, as opposed to other teas that I've selected from his range, this one is not a single cultivar, it's a blend. And he does that because on the first day and the second day of harvest, he harvests different tea gardens. And they have different cultivars, and with those cultivars he creates a blend to deliver to his customers immediately, and that is every year again his special Shincha. And I thought this year also, because it's a special tradition that they adhere to, it is something interesting to introduce to my tea club members. I thought I'd just get his blend Shincha and have you enjoy that for all the benefits that you can get from this delicious tea. Iwata's tea is really a natural, pure, an authentic tea, and their tea gardens too, they have a lot of seed-grown tea gardens. They work with a lot of seed-grown cultivars, which is something that is uncommon. But what he's trying to do at the moment, which is very interesting, is to take seeds from a cultivar plant, like say, for example, the Benifuki cultivar or the Yamato Midori cultivar. He takes the seeds of them and plants them. And of course, when you plant them from seeds, the specifications will be different than the original cultivar where it was taken from. But he plants more seeds in one area and then pulls out the ones that are not really close to the original plant. And he does this, this experiment, which is really interesting and really groundbreaking, because he can actually discover plants that have somewhat similar specifications to the original cultivar, but are grown from seed, which is much more natural and also will allow the plants to have more vitality. And every year when he's doing his harvest, I like to go and pay them a visit and also look at how they're gathering the tea. And Fumiaki is always in the factory. He barely sleeps. He spends almost 24 hours just processing his tea, and then he's got several helpers and workers on the field. Also his father and mother, they drive out with their little K-trucks to the tea gardens, and with this handheld harvester cutter they cut over the lanes of bushes, and apparently that's a very difficult thing to do. Now first, this handheld harvester cutter is always handheld by two persons, and there's someone behind it to keep the bag floating. And the cutter has scissors that cut over that cut the leaf that is sticking out above the surface of the tea bush, the row of bushes actually, and they move the cutter forward, and there's a bag behind it in which with wind the cut leaf is blown into. but there's someone who has to keep that bag uplifted, because otherwise it might catch on the cut tea branches or things like that. So it's a very interesting thing to see, and they use that on all their tea gardens. But he doesn't only use cultivars. Sometimes when he has a tea garden that is grown from seed, then the tea garden has, well, different heights. Each bush in a row is a different bush, and so if they have different specifications, one bush might grow taller and the other one lower, and so there's bumps in the surface of the tea garden, which means that you can't just keep the cutter at one straight height. You have to sort of roll with the shape of the tea trees. Now, on other of his gardens, he's got lanes of bushes that run straight down the hill. That's also very difficult because it could be very steep, and sometimes that's actually very dangerous if you're holding a big cutting machine and you step into a hole where a wild boar might have dug out some roots, etc. And it actually happens. So it's a very dangerous endeavor at times. So when the tea is then harvested, it's transported in those little K-trucks and it is brought to the factory. And in the factory, that is where our farmer Iwata Fumiaki, where he processes the tea, and it involves a lot of different types of machines. And if you've ever been to a factory, or have ever seen a tea factory, or have ever been inside a tea factory, let me know in the comments. And if you haven't, now is your chance. So follow me along. I will show you what goes on in the factory. So welcome to the factory. This is not exactly the first stage. We're entering the tea processing stage here in the middle. This is the kneading stage, and this happens after an initial beating has happened, and also after steaming the leaf. So here we're pressing downward force on the leaf, and then after the leaf is rolled and kneaded, it's transported onto the next stage. And the next stage is the agitation stage, where in this big drum the leaf is tumbled round and allowed to dry further, and also to declutter, because it might have gotten packed together. And of course the producer always checks if his tea is in the state that he wants to have it. This is the final shaping machine, and it's got brushes in there, and they go back and forth. And by pushing the leaf back and forth in the same direction, the sencha gets its needle shape. So you see that the leaf here is pushed front and back and front and back, and it's pushed in one direction, and that makes the leaf to, well, not curl up like, for example, with a kamairicha, but it gets that beautiful needle-like long shape that is common of a sencha. Here, of course, there might be some twigs in there even after final filtering out processing. So this person here is checking if there's any larger branches or twigs or parts that you don't want to have in the final tea, and she picks that out. And then once that is done, the tea is put into packages, and this is where the tea is being packaged and lined up for final sealing. And this is then how the tea is being delivered to the consumer. That was just a quick stroll through the factory, but I hope that you've got a bit of an idea of what goes on in a tea factory. It's quite an intensive process, and the farmer also has to, well, put in a lot of work and a lot of time to really tend to his tea. So I think that this might have given you a bit more appreciation for all the work and the sweat and tears that go into making this wonderful tea. So that's it for this month's Tea Club video. If you've enjoyed this, then be sure to, well, leave a comment again, like the video, subscribe to the channel, click on the bell so that you get notified of new video updates in the future. And the Tea Club always comes with these 2 wonderful teas that I select according to a theme that is different every month. There's a lot more information about these teas in our booklet, and also members get access to a special video that I make for them, and it's more personal, more content that is directed directly at them, more information as well. And in a way, actually becoming a member of the Tea Club means that you get more personal access to me as well, and we can have a closer sort of communication and a conversation. So subscribe, like, subscribe to the Tea Club, and also don't forget to follow us on Instagram, and I'll be looking forward to seeing you in one of our next videos, and maybe even in the Tea Club in the future. Thank you for watching.